Hi, folks. Good morning, everyone in Nigeria. How you all doing? Listening from Lagos, Port Harcourt, or Abuja. My name is Kalu Aja, and we're doing our morning paper review this morning. Give you guys heads up on what's happening in the world of business. Set you guys up professionally for your week ahead, right? So this is the 21st day in October. Let's see what's happening. So we're gonna have first story today from, I believe it's this day, and they are saying that the federal government is considering seriously the possibility of introducing a 20% tax on non-alcoholic drinks. So that's going to be malts, soft carbonated drinks, sodas, everything really that's not alcoholic. 20% new tax. This is in addition to VAT, right? Obviously, the federal government is broke. They're printing, they're borrowing. Now they're going to increase the taxes on these drinks. So it's going to be a hit on the middle class. That's what's going to happen, a hit on the middle class to pay for the wasteful spending of the federal government. I'm not sure how much is going to be raised here, but I can bet you guys that whatever amount is raised here, it will not be up to the amount that the federal government is spending to, should we say, keep the presidential air fleet running. So you want to ask, where is the cost savings? There are many ways to balance a budget. And all I see for now, it's printing money, borrowing money, raising taxes. I've not yet seen cutting down the cost of running business. Last week, I did the analysis of the federal government's budget. I mean, it's published. The recurrent side of the expenditure of the government has actually gone up. Revenues has come down. Capital spending has come down, but the recurrent part of the budget has basically gone up. So nothing has changed in their spending. It's almost like they're cutting their coats according to their wishes, right? Not their size. So yeah, I get the point of raising taxes, but let's see a corresponding slowdown in the spending of the government. That's the way people would believe that the government is also sacrificing in this trying to balance this budget. We just can't print and tax our way into prosperity. So yeah, it is what it is. It's there, 20%. That's going to be in addition to VAT. So get ready. Not just this go, there are going to be more taxes coming because the government really has no money. There's seriously no money. And why pay for PMS imports if you're going to raise taxes on Nigerians? Why not just cut down the PMS imports by 50%, right? And allow Nigerians at least not to have new taxes. I don't know. I'm not sure how they're thinking this through, right? Why are you importing inflation in form of PMS and then taxing companies in Nigeria that have set up companies set up in Nigeria to manufacture these drinks, employ people? Remember, who pays taxes, not the corporations. If you tax Coca-Cola Nigeria Limited, or tax whoever you want to tax in Nigeria, they pay the tax, yes, but you, the consumer, pays. Consumers pay taxes. Companies just pass it to you. So you're going to find that the companies will absorb this tax and, of course, clearly push it back to the consumers. It can be about 1 year or 2 years, but they're going to push it back to you because the corporation exists to make a profit. That's said, so that's what's going to happen, right? So great. The next big story really is this: the IMF has concluded their. IMF goes around, the International Monetary Fund, right? They go around nations and they do their reviews, look at your balance sheet and all that kind of stuff. And then, of course, they write you a very, very nice letter. And those letters are very, very, should we say, interesting to read because you see from the outside in how the IMF is looking at your finances. So this is called the Article 4 consultation. They've concluded the one for 2022. And we have their report here, and we can just review it. They said a lot. They've said a lot. And essentially, just for you guys to understand what IMF does, IMF is looking more at your balance of payment, right? Or like the World Bank, that is more or less like a development finance agency, not really a bank, just development finance, right? The IMF is like a consultant that sort of comes when you are really in trouble. So when you're really in trouble and you cannot get funds from the normal banks or from the lenders, you go to the IMF and you sort of restructure your balance sheet. They give you some loans, but with very, very stringent, should we say, conditions. IMF doesn't cause your country to fail. Your country has already started failing, then you run to the IMF. So just good to make that point, right? So the main thing IMF is saying in this 2022 Article 4 consultation is that they want the Central Bank of Nigeria to essentially stop spending money. Stop spending money. Number one, they are saying, hey, you are printing too much money. So you are funding the deficit of the government by just printing money. That's number one. Number two, you're also printing money. You are doing this intervention funds that you're doing. You are giving rice farmers money. You are doing 100 for 100, where you are supporting the real sector. You are also giving them money. I mean, the issue is not if it's good or if it's bad. It's just that what they are doing is creating inflation, right? There's a lot of cash out there that is circulating in the economy because the central bank is printing and spending the money. And the central bank is also raising the interest rates in the economy, what we call the monetary policy rate. Is raising those rates up to absorb excess liquidity. So the IMF is saying, listen, you are just overheating the monetary side of the equation. Stop spending, stop printing money for the federal government. That's good advice. Yes, I get the point. You want to grow the real economy because it's hard for these guys to get real loans. But don't forget you are pushing cash into the system. And inflation is really why you were created. You were created to fight inflation. So if your actions cause inflation to go up, you might want to pull back, right? The other thing they've told the central bank to do is that they want the central bank to ease off being the main seller and buyer of dollars in the Nigerian economy. So the Nigerian economy runs a pegged exchange rate system where the central bank has pegged the naira to a value. I think it's a NAFEX rate right now. It's about 466 to a dollar. So what the central bank does, the central bank maintains a reserve and it uses that reserve to defend that peg. So essentially how it's supposed to work is if you want $100, you go to your bank and you request for $100 and the bank goes to the central bank and buy $100 for you, but at the rate of 466. You and I both know that the real price of dollars is higher than 466. I don't think it's as high as 7 or 8, but it's higher than 466, right? So in effect, the central bank is subsidizing the dollar for you. That's what's going on. And it does this by using its foreign reserves to pay you. So that way, anytime you buy dollars at that 466, the central bank's foreign reserves is going down. So if he wants to keep the dollar at 100 naira, for instance, just to be crazy, right? He can do that by selling his foreign reserves and the dollar will fall to 100 naira a dollar. The problem is that for how long? They only have about 38 billion in reserves. That's about 6 months of import. So everyone knows that they can't do it. Even if they try to do 100 naira, it's going to last them only 6 months and it's gone. So the IMF is saying, central bank, chill out. Allow the Nigerian banks to actually run the day-to-day retail of the naira and dollar exchange rate. What this means in operational terms is that if you are in America and you want to bring dollars into Nigeria, you will basically go to the Nigerian banks and say, what rate will you buy from me? And the Nigerian banks will quote you a rate. It's not going to be the NAFEX rate. It could be their own rate. It could be whatever rate they decide. And if you are okay, then you sell to your Nigerian banks. Nigerian banks buy from you. They buy from tourists. They buy from exporters. They buy from remittance folks. And then they sell to the importers. So that rate is going to be essentially be the rate that the Nigerian banks are buying from you. And then, of course, they'll make a spread when they sell. It's not going to be the central bank saying, oh, buy at this, sell at this. Does it mean the central bank will have no role in the exchange rate? Of course, they will have a role. The central bank, because they have 38 billion in reserve, they can come in and say, we think dollar is too high, and they can sell dollar, just like they did 2 weeks ago. That's why you saw the dollar fall 2 weeks ago. They can sell dollars into the market, flood the market with dollars, and make the naira go up. They can do that. But the IMF is saying, do not be the number one source. Don't be the go-to guy, the retail, everyday, dollar this, dollar that. No. Central bank should focus on its core inflation And of course, it can intervene in the market, but not the main guy in the market. So in essence, it might be a single rate, but whatever it is going to be a market-driven rate and not a rate that is determined by CBN fiat. That's essentially where the IMF is going to. If this happens, it makes imports expensive. Right now, imports in Nigeria are cheap. Whatever you say, I know you're going to say, "Wow, cheap?" Yeah, it's cheap because you are importing at 466, and that's not the real price for dollar. So that's a subsidy for you on dollar. So if you import at 466, that's not the real price. The real price is the black market price. That's what you really have imported if there was no CBN. But the question is that if the banks take over, will dollar go up or down? It really depends on supply. Why is there no supply of dollars into the market? Because the banks are paying 466, right? Or if you want to do remittance, or if you're an exporter, they pay you 466. In this new system that the IMF is proposing, I mean, ask them to do, it's going to be market driven. It might not be 700, but it will be near to the market. So many folks would prefer to do the legal transfer to the bank and get maybe it's 5 or 6 than going to the black market and doing 7. So it might increase the supply. And if you increase the supply, the Naira gains value. It's all a supply question, guys. There's nothing else you're going to do. CBN can do all this 1 billion this week, 1 billion next week. It's all cosmetic. The only way you make the Naira go up is if you increase the Naira supply. That's the only way you can make it go up, right? Other things that the IMF has asked is that they should remove the petrol subsidy permanently. Take away petrol subsidy. They're also asking for new taxes. They're asking for tariffs to go away. I mean, it's tough medicine for Nigeria if we have to do all this. But again, remember what I said. The IMF only comes when you are in trouble. The IMF only comes when you are in trouble. So if you don't hear the IMF going to America or to any country, you hear IMF in Ghana and Nigeria because we're in big trouble in terms of our balance of trade, right? So essentially, what they're saying, increase VAT on tobacco, increase VAT on alcohol. That's the IMF talking now. Remove tariffs that are given to folks to import. Raise VAT to 17. Is it 17 they're asking? Yeah, raise VAT up. Yeah, to 15. Raise VAT to 15 by 2027. That's what IMF is also recommending. So we'll see. That's where we are, guys. So that's our take for today. Let's see if anyone wants to hop in or has a question or clarification, guys. If you want to talk, do a request on the screen on the Twitter handle, and I'll just add you real quick. Otherwise, guys, we'll call it a great day, and we'll just set you guys all up for your week this week. Guys, go out and make that money. It's going to be a wonderful week. I can sense it. I see things happening. You guys go make that money. You guys have a good one. Take care of yourselves. I'll see you all next week. Probably on Saturday. We do our weekend spaces Saturday, 7 p.m. We should have a session Saturday, 7 p.m. I want to do census. But I also want to explore this POS payments. On the report I'm reading here, POS payments up more than 6.4 trillion. We're going to beat the 6.4 trillion that we did in 2021. So I think this is material that we're doing a lot of non-cash transactions in Nigeria. What's driving it? Who is driving it? What's the implication? What does it mean also with our changing of the Naira? Maybe we can do that on Saturday if possible. But I want to do census. That's really a big one. And I really would like to do, get the census. I think it's something that we should talk about before we actually took a census. Yeah. Let's see. Alikon, you're good to go. Go ahead, sir. Hey, Alikon, you're still muted. Yeah, how you doing?
Yeah, okay. Good morning.
Hey, how you doing? I'm good.
Okay, I just saw the information on federal government sukuk for 10 years at 15.8%.
How much?
15.8%.
Is that dollar or naira?
GMO.
Dollar or naira?
10 years bond at 15.8%.
Yeah,
so let me just notify you quickly.
But that's kind of low because 1 year is the same 15%, right? I know they are selling 365 bonds at about the same 15%. So 10 year, I don't know. I mean, those rates are high, and those high rates for what we call those bonds are risk-free because they are issued by the federal government, right?
Yes.
If it's risk-free, if it's risk-free for 15, it's killing off anything to do with risk. That means that if I want to do business, why would I do business if I can earn 15% risk-free? That means the business must give me like maybe 25% before I'll look at it.
Exactly.
Yeah, so
that's all I have. That's all that I wanted to pass across to you.
Yeah. Not good, but I understand inflation is now 21%.
Yes.
So that tells you why those risk-free rates are as high as 15, and that's why they're asking the central bank to cut spending, and also asking Nigeria to raise revenues. We have to close that hole. 20 trillion is not even. Go ahead.
Quick question, my brother. If I have a property that has a value of 200 million and my rental income is 5%, which is about 10 million, if I can liquidate the property at 200 million and buy this bond at 15.8%, that will give me 31 point something million every year. That's against my rent of 10 million. What do you advise?
Well, I can't give you advice, bro. But what I'll say is this. These are two separate things you're talking about. One is asset valuation. The other is yield. When you own a house that is worth, how did you say 200 million? That's the value. That's the asset value. The yield is your rental. If you sell that asset, right, you have 200 million naira in cash.
Yes.
You're going to invest it for 13%, right? The question is that, can that 13% grow?
No, 15.8%.
Great, but can the 15% grow to match inflation? Remember that your asset value is matching inflation because it's just going to be repriced based on the location, right, at inflationary trends. But once you hold cash, you are now investing and you are locking that at about 15. So you are no longer having an asset, rather you're having cash yielding you 15%. There's no cash underlay, right? There's no asset underlay. When you hold the asset, you're not making any returns. But when you hold the cash, there is no underlay, no protection from inflation. You're going to have what's called a reinvestment risk, which means that you will get the money, but if you go to the market to buy a property worth the same 200 million, the value of that property would have gone up again because of inflation. So your answer is that you are taking a bet on the future direction of interest rates. If you believe that in the next 3 years, interest rates are going to come down, then you want to buy the bond today to lock in 15%. That's what you're doing. This time last year, rates were not even near double digits, So now they are double digits. So you want to ask yourself, would rates go up or down in the next 5 years? If you think they're going to go up, then you don't want to sell your house. If you think they're going to go down, then it might be a good chance to say, I want to lock in at 15 for 15 years and get out of the way. That's basically the answer right there for you.
Thank you so much. You have educated a whole lot of people.
All right, super. Have a good. Let me get Ike. I got Ike Chuku Obina. What's up, bro?
Good morning.
How you doing?
I'm fine. Yeah. I'm asking for a friend. So he's actually a lawyer. So he has assets, but he has assets in in terms of landed properties. Because I'm asking in relation to the last man who asked the question, Ali Consent. So he's having issues with cash flow. Like he's not really making so much in terms of constant cash. So like, what do you advise him? He just has landed property, a few. So like, most times when he gets money in bulk, he just buys properties based on the fear of not probably wasting the money on something like that. So it's really very troubling. So what would be your advice to someone like that?
I hear you. Again, we're not giving advice, right? Because I don't know him, right? But let me say this way: it depends on your objective. If you went to a financial planner and you said, "What should I do?" They're going to ask you, "What do you want to achieve? What's your objective?" So if I asked him what is his objective, his objective is to what we call preserve his capital. He wants to preserve his capital. Then he could be right in saying, okay, I'm going to buy property because I want to preserve my capital. But if his objective is to get income, he wants to make income, then we'll say, okay, there are other ways you can raise income off your assets. But it's always a good idea to diversify irrespective of your objective. So if you, depending on his age, I'll give an example. Let's say this guy was 50 years old, right? At that age, you are no longer what we call the asset accumulation stage. You are looking now more at consolidation and preservation. At that age, he's looking for income, not to take risks. So I would have a portfolio that will at least be 80% safe, but then have a bit of that portfolio maybe in bonds that can generate safe returns back to you. Because you can't just say you only want to have assets that just protect your capital without you having any income whatsoever. So you've got to go speak to a professional and say, this is my objective. How can I achieve it? You can't say it. You can advise without speaking to the owner of the fund. What do you want to achieve? There are many ways.
He's still young though. I think he's in his late 20s now, 27.
Well, if you're in your late, whatever you are in life, you need liquidity. So what's the point if you have a house but you can't pay for food?
Yeah.
Right? So you've got to look for a way. And inflation would affect you if you have cash, but you have to have food. So you've got to properly do, like a plan. It's called asset allocation. And that allocation will speak to your objectives. And then we'll then say, this is how old I am. This is what I want to do. Hence, I'm going to buy this sort of assets to do what I want to do. Everyone is not the same. You could be 65 and you have a different risk profile from someone that is 35. There are some rules that are set in stone. If you are older, you don't want to take a lot of risk because you don't have time to recover. But if you are younger, usually your objective is accumulating assets. So you are taking a lot of debt, a lot of leverage to buy assets because you don't have high earning capacity at the younger age. So you are borrowing to buy assets. The idea being as you get older, those assets appreciate in value. Then you can either pay them down or you can then use the income from those assets to live out. But again, you have to speak to the person before you can give any advice. So he would have to go see a proper advisor and say, this is who I am, this is my age, this is my objective, this is my risk profile, and I would like to do this. What should I do? That's basically what he needs to go get done. All right, super. Nice one. I got Noah Akan. How you doing?
Okay. Good morning, sir.
Hey, what's
First
up?
of all, thank you for what you've been doing. So yes, I'm working on a company right now where we're trying to see how our staff would actually start to save money, which we call our job. So let's say each of the staff collect 40,000 naira per month. So we try to see where the staff could basically save 10,000 naira for themselves, which this money will be collected at the end of the year. So let's say a staff saved like 10,000 naira for 1 year, automatically earns 120, and that 120 will be given back to them at the end of the year. But I was thinking of something, sir. What do you advise? So I don't this treasury fund. I don't know much about it. I'm not saying it for I don't hear it for the first time. And I was looking at because first of all, I wanted to use the money that will be saved. Want to use it to buy want to save it in what is it called in a bank, which I said as a fixed deposit. I think about 4 or 5%. But sir, what do you advise? Let's assume my total staff tries to start saving money, which at the end of the year will make like 10 million naira from their savings, which will return back. So use that money to buy a treasury bond. Sir, do you advise if I should go on buying a treasury bond? Let's assume this total bond, the total worker that I have to save like 10 million naira in 1 year. So which automatically the money will work out from January. So if you see 10 million naira that will be saved throughout that 1 year by my staff, I was thinking that removing 10 million naira straight from my company's account and investing it in treasury bonds. So after the 1 year, the revenue there's the revenue, which is the profits that I'm giving to me, that 10% I get. I was thinking of investing and using that same money to give them back. Now, what do you advise? Would you advise people to just buy a treasury bond or put in a fixed deposit? Thank you, sir.
Or put in what? The last sentence?
Or put it in a fixed deposit account. So which do you advise out of the two, sir?
Okay, so it's the same thing, right? So I get your question, right? Look at it this way. Remember what I said to the gentleman that spoke before. It's really based on your objective. Now, in this case, you have many folks that are working for you. You don't know their own individual objective. So let's say you want to have an objective for them. Let's say you guys have a meeting and you all agree that we have this objective. That's the very first thing you have to do. You want to make sure everyone agrees why they are saving. I could be saving to make money in a year. Someone else wants to save money in 5 years. These two are different objectives and would need different investment pathways. So the first thing I would ask is, if you own the company, I hope they already have a pension retirement savings account. You already have one for them, and you are contributing your 18% while they are contributing their 10%. That's the first thing you should do if they want to save. Why? Because that account is tax-free and it compounds automatically for them. So I would say the very, very first thing you want to do is to ensure that all those staff that you have, you've opened up a retirement savings account for them in their personal name, and that you are contributing and they are contributing, right? So that's the first one. You want to take advantage of the federal government's tax policy, but anything you put there is tax deferred. They don't pay taxes today, it's tax deferred. That's one. The second thing you want to do is that if you want to save money in any format, you've got to make sure you agree the group objective. So I don't like AJO because AJO only works for the first and the second person that collects, right? So the guys that collect at the very end are going to have a loss because they've tied their money for a longer period. But instead of doing an AJO, you can do an investment club where everyone is contributing to a pot, and then that pot is investing. Now, where should you invest? Should you invest in a treasury bill or fixed deposit? It's the same thing, right? The treasury bill and fixed deposit are both what we call fixed return. Fixed return. The difference is that the treasury bill is by the government and the fixed deposit is by the bank. So the bank is more risky than the government. So the bank should pay you more than the government. So if you guys say we can take higher risk, sure, you can go to the bank. If you don't think you want to take a lot of risk, then stay with the federal government because that's the quote-unquote risk-free. Then you get your 15% at the end of the year because it's risk-free and they're going to guarantee that money to you. That's what they're doing. That's why it's less than inflation, because it's guaranteed. The bank should pay you more. So anyone that you want to give money to invest has got to beat the federal government. You can't invest with anyone lower than the rate you get from the federal government. It wouldn't make any sense to you, right? So I would say go back and agree the objective. If you guys agree the objective, then you then know what type to invest. If your objective is 5 years, it's different if objective is just 1 year. If it's just 1 year, the treasury bonds look okay because it's just 1 year. But if you're doing more than that, you might want to say, okay, should we do a bond or should we do this or should we do that? But everyone has to agree. So really, if you are funding or you're taking people's salaries, people have got to agree, they've got to sign off that they are aware of what you're doing and all that, because they have to do it voluntarily, right? Unless you are doing an additional voluntary contribution to the PFA on their behalf. That could be also something that you do.
Okay, sir, please, can I, you said something, I just used the word adjo. Really, it's not adjo. So I was trying to do something whereby each of my staff will be able to save money. I'm not doing people that don't save money. So each of them will be able to save money. Then at the end of the 1 year, so they'll collect the money that they see. And the money one that come from the treasury bond, just as you said, I was thinking of maybe redistributing back that same profit that comes from that adjo. So I just named it adjo. Do is not really an adjo. It's just a platform where the staff itself will be saving money at the end of the 1 year. They collect that money.
Yeah,
and the remaining profit that comes with it, we'll give it to them. Now, as you have mentioned the pension, I think I will see how I could make my research and work towards that. But that was just the basic reason, because I know a lot of people don't actually save money that much because of the economy. So I was trying to see something whereby, irrespective of the economy, at least in a 1 year, you'll be able to collect your 120. And I don't want you to just go for you. And why the remaining 15% that collecting, which is the interest from the government, will be used as you just mentioned, which I thank you. I will just go back and see how we could do that. So which the remaining 18% will go back as pension. So that's what we want to do. And so do you advise, because it is based on your personal choices, because I was trying to say how we could do it, whereby each of the staff will be able to save at least 10, let's say the earning 40, they will be able to save at least maximum of 50% of it, which will be on their personal choice. So they can save anything from 5,000 to 20,000, which is the max you can save. So it wasn't like, because as I mentioned, I know, but it wasn't an adjo. It wasn't something where every year they save.
I hear you. I hear you, bro. I hear you. All I'm saying is that make sure it's voluntary. You can also say if you save, you will match. You can say if you save 1 naira, I will match you 1 naira up to say 10,000 or 20,000. The point I'm making to you is that make sure it's voluntary and offer an incentive to the staff to save. So don't debit anyone's paycheck, because you get into trouble. Don't debit anyone's paycheck unless they agree. So do it like an incentive and say, hey, I have a scheme. If you save 1 naira, I would add it under 1 naira. So you have 2 naira. Then that 2 naira will be invested and you get the returns of the 2 naira. It's yours, but you have to save to get my 1 naira. You can save up to 5,000 a month, like something like that. You can easily do that. So that way no one feels bad. It's like, if I can save, I save and I get the extra. If I can't save, it's sad. But make sure you're doing the pension for them first, because that one is legal and mandatory. Make sense? All right, bro. Thank you so much, guys. Yeah, good questions. No, I hope you're good.
And last, sir, let's assume I want to see for a professional business advisor.
No, I don't.
Do that, sir?
I don't. Sorry about that. I don't. I'm so sorry. But if you go to I don't really. If you go to a bank or you just try to get to an account, a financial advisor, they can help you with this. Yeah, but I can give you the broad strokes, but I can't really do it for you. Sorry about that.
Okay, sir. No problem, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're very welcome. You have a good one, guys. Thank you so much for the questions. You guys have a great Monday. I will talk to you guys later.